All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we are tackling Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha. We're going to see if he still got that magic touch.
Magic, huh? Well, some people are starting to think maybe the spell's worn off a little bit.
Yeah, right. Some of his latest moves have people scratching their heads, like selling off those stocks, and then they just skyrocket. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher, especially for folks who've been following Buffett's career for, a while.
It's like, did he miss a memo or something? Dump those big chunks of companies like, what was it, TSMC?
Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company.
Right, and then Apple. Come on, everybody and their grandma owns Apple.
Seriously. And then, poof, both of those stocks just take off after he sells.
It's wild. So what's going on? Has he lost his mojo?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, his whole thing has been value investing, right?
Yeah.
Finding those hidden gems that are like way undervalued and holding on to them like forever.
Yeah, and it's worked wonders for him for decades. I mean, the guy's been a market rock star for longer than I've been alive.
Right. So is this it? Is this the end of an era?
Well, that's what we're here to figure out. But there's this one thing that's really interesting, right? His company, Berkshire Hathaway, they're sitting on a mountain of cash.
Oh, yeah. We're talking a record-breaking $325 billion.
Oh, whoa, hold on. $325 billion. I can't even.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And it's got everybody talking, like, what is he doing with all that cash?
Yeah, is he just being super cautious, like playing it safe because he thinks the market is, what do they call it?
Overvalued.
Yeah, overvalued.
That's one theory. It's like that fancy coffee shop charging, $10 for a latte just because they can.
Right, just because it's trendy. You wouldn't pay that.
Exactly. So maybe Buffett's thinking the same thing about the market.
Okay, I see. So he's not going to splurge on an overpriced latte, stock. But how do we even know if the market is like that? Like expensive?
Yeah, so there are these things called market valuations, right? They're kind of like a price to earnings ratio. Like how much are investors willing to pay for every dollar of a company's earnings? And right now, those valuations are really high, historically speaking.
Oh, no. Are we talking like .com bubble high?
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Similar to those levels, yeah. Like back in the late 90s when everybody was going crazy for anything internet related.
Oh, man, that didn't end well.
Nope. And even those highs we saw back in 2021, remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Markets come down quite a bit since then.
So maybe Buffett's just being like the smart grandpa in the room, protecting his grandkids' inheritance by sitting this one out. But what about selling TSMC and Apple? I mean, those are huge companies.
Yeah, and that's where the debate really gets interesting. We'll dive into that next. So, yeah, we were talking about Buffett selling those big chunks of TSMC and Apple. Right?
Yeah, huge move. I mean, some people think it was a big mistake.
Yeah, some analysts, especially those looking at a Chinese analysis we found, they think this was a major blunder.
Whoa, really? Calling out the Oracle himself. Tell me more about this.
Well, their argument is that, Buffett's letting these geopolitical risks get to him, all those global tensions and stuff.
Ah, okay. So he's spooked by the headlines.
That's what they're saying, and it's making him miss out on those sweet, sweet gains.
So instead of looking at the companies, he's looking at, the news and getting scared.
Right. And they point to TSMC, big presence in Taiwan, kind of a geopolitical hotspot these days.
Yeah, definitely.
So they say Buffett got cold feet, sold off his shares, and then what happens? TSMC stock just keeps climbing.
Oof, that's gotta hurt, even for a billionaire.
Right. But hey, remember, we're talking Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
This guy's been in the game for, ever? Decades. He's seen it all. Right?
Oh,
It's like judging a chef, a world-renowned chef on one slightly undercooked dish.
yeah, one bad meal doesn't ruin a whole career.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
how do we make sense of all this?
Yeah.
Well, first, we got to remember that intelligent investor thing. That's Buffett's Bible, right? And it talks about this thing called margin of safety.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Basically, it means you're buying something for way less than it's actually worth. Like snagging a designer dress on super sale.
Ooh, I like that analogy. More bang for your buck.
Exactly. It limits your downside if things go south. So maybe Buffett looked at TSMC and thought, even though it's a great company, the price is just a little too high for my liking.
Okay, makes sense. So he's not just jumping on every hot stock. He wants a good deal.
Right. But then what about Apple?
Yeah, what about Apple? He's been a huge fan for years.
Right. And that's what makes this whole thing even more interesting. Because the Chinese analysts are saying, well, if he was so worried about geopolitical risks, why is he still holding on to Apple?
Yeah. Good point.
Apple has a ton of manufacturing in China, right?
Yeah. That seems a bit like a double standard or something.
Yeah, it raises some questions for sure. But here's another thing. Even though he trimmed his Apple position, it's still his biggest holding, by far.
Wow, so he's still betting big on Apple.
Looks like it. Yeah. So maybe his TSMC decision wasn't just about geopolitics, maybe something else entirely.
Who knows?
We'll have to see how it plays out, right?
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But it's fascinating, right? I mean, the guy's a legend.
Yeah. And remember, we're looking at this from a long-term perspective. He's always said, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient.
Ah, the tortoise and the hare.
Right. Slow and steady wins the race. And Buffett, he's the ultimate tortoise.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of judging him on a few short-term moves, we need to see how his strategy plays out over the next few years.
Makes sense. So maybe the oracle's not losing his touch.
Maybe not.
But it is interesting to see how he's dealing with all this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can we learn anything from this as, like, regular investors?
That's a great question, and that's something we're going to explore next.
All right, so we've gone deep into Warren Buffett's world. He's holding strong, sticking to his guns, sitting on that cash like, I don't know, a dragon guarding its hoard.
Yeah. It's like he's saying, I'm going to wait for the perfect moment, even though the market seems to be doing pretty well right now.
Yeah. He's definitely playing a different game than most investors. He's not chasing those, like, hot stocks or anything.
Nope. He's not trying to, time the market perfectly either.
He is thinking long-term, way ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
Kind of like a chess master.
Totally. He's thinking several moves ahead while everyone else is just focused on that next pawn,
Exactly. He's all about value, sticking to his principles, even if it means going against what everyone else is doing.
He's the ultimate contrarian. I mean, Buffett has a totally different situation than us. He's managing this massive portfolio. He can afford to be patient.
Right. He's in a different league. But we can still learn from him, right?
Oh, absolutely. Tons to learn. Like, first, do your research. Don't just buy whatever everyone else is buying just because it's trending or whatever.
Right. No more buying GameStop just because Reddit tells you to.
Exactly. You got to understand the companies you're investing in, their fundamentals.
Yeah.
What are their long-term prospects?
Okay, got it. Research is key. What else?
Be patient. Remember, investing is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't think you're going to get rich quick.
Slow and steady wins the race, right? We've heard that before.
Exactly. It's about building wealth over time, just like Buffett has done. And third, don't be afraid to be different. Sometimes the best opportunities come when everyone else is, like, freaking out.
Oh, like buying stocks when the market dips.
Exactly. It's like Buffett said, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful.
Classic Buffett. Words to live by, right? So even if we can't all be Warren Buffett, we can learn from him. Apply those lessons to our own, investing journey.
Totally. It's about figuring out your own investment philosophy, one that aligns with your goals, your risk tolerance, and, your time horizon.
Well said. It's amazing to see how Buffett's strategies and his principles have held up over time.
Yeah, it's incredible. It really shows the power of thinking long-term, being patient, and really understanding value.
Speaking of value, we got to give a shout out to our sponsor. For this episode, we're partnering with Mickytolife.
Yes, an awesome YouTube channel.
If you're into travel, whiskey, or just fun unboxing videos, you got to check them out. Seriously, great stories. And they have a ton of personality.
Their travel vlogs are supposed to be amazing.
They are. You should definitely subscribe. And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Warren Buffett. We hope you learned some valuable stuff today.
And maybe even got a little inspiration for your own investing journey.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.